when God turned weakness into strength. Before the strength came, there was humiliation. Before the power, there was trembling. Before the victory, there was a season that almost broke you. You didn't choose that season. It chose you. You remember it. The nights you stared at the ceiling. The silence that felt louder than noise. The prayers that seemed to hit the roof and fall back down. You questioned yourself. You questioned your ability. You even questioned God. And that's when weakness introduced itself. Not the kind people see. The hidden kind. The kind that makes you smile in public and collapse in private. You tried to be strong. You tried to hold it together. You tried to prove you could handle it. But heaven wasn't trying to expose your strength. Heaven was exposing your dependency. Because real strength is never born from self-sufficiency. It is born from surrender. You thought the struggle meant disqualification, but it was preparation. You thought the pressure meant abandonment, but it was alignment. You thought the breaking meant the end, but it was the beginning. Look at the pattern of Scripture. When a shepherd boy named David stood before a giant, he didn't look strong. He looked ridiculous, too young, too small, too inexperienced. Yet heaven called him chosen, and the weakness people mocked became the very weapon that defeated the giant. When Moses stood before a burning bush, he didn't say, "I am ready." He said, "I can't speak." He listed his flaws. He listed his fears. He listed his insecurities. But God didn't argue with his weakness. He used it. Because when God chooses you, he factors in what you lack. When Gideon hid in fear, God called him mighty. Not because he looked mighty, but because heaven sees potential before manifestation. Weakness is not a label. It is raw material. You thought your anxiety disqualified you. It positioned you. You thought your tears disqualified you. They purified you. You thought your failure disqualified you. It refined you. God does not build strength the way the world does. The world builds strength by applause. God builds strength by isolation. The world builds strength by validation. God builds strength by confrontation. The world builds strength by platforms. God builds strength in caves. Ask David about caves. Ask Moses about deserts. Ask Gideon about hiding places. There is a reason the enemy attacks your weakest area, because that is the exact place God intends to glorify himself. Your insecurity will become authority. Your fear will become faith. Your delay will become discipline. Your weakness will become witness. You are not weak. You are in construction. You are not behind. You are being built. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. Here is the mystery. God does not remove weakness first. He enters it. He doesn't wait for you to become strong. He steps into your fragile places. And in that sacred collision, weakness begins to shift the moment you stopped pretending, the moment you admitted, "I can't do this alone." That was the turning point. Because grace does not attach to pride. Grace attaches to surrender. And surrender is the birthplace of supernatural strength. You survived something that should have crushed you. That wasn't luck. That wasn't coincidence. That was reinforcement. Invisible reinforcement. Divine reinforcement. Heaven reinforcing what hell tried to collapse. And now, you are stronger in ways nobody can measure. You don't panic like you used to. You don't react like you used to. You don't beg for validation like you used to. That is transformation. That is evidence. That is strength born from weakness. But this is only the beginning. Because God doesn't just turn weakness into survival. He turns weakness into assignment. And what broke you will soon build others. The hidden process strength did not arrive loudly. It did not knock on your door with applause. It came quietly, in process, in pressure, in private. There is a phase nobody celebrates, the phase between promise and proof, the space between calling and confidence, the stretch between prayer and manifestation. That is where transformation lives, and that is where you were hidden. You thought you were stuck, but you were being stretched. You thought you were delayed, but you were being developed. You thought nothing was happening, but everything was changing. Look at Joseph. He had a dream. But dreams don't mature in daylight. They mature in darkness. The pit wasn't punishment. The prison wasn't abandonment. It was training. The weakness of betrayal prepared him for the weight of authority. Look at Peter. Bold in speech, fragile under pressure. He swore loyalty, then denied what he swore. That moment could have defined him, but failure became fire. Weakness became humility, and humility became leadership. God does not waste your breaking points. He repurposes them. Every tear you cried taught you something. Every disappointment strengthened your discernment. Every closed door sharpened your hearing. You stopped chasing noise. You started listening for God. That is growth. The hidden process feels unfair because nobody sees your progress. Nobody applauds your discipline. Nobody notices your restraint. But heaven measures differently. Heaven celebrates internal victories. The day you didn't react, the day you forgave, the day you chose faith over fear. That was strength forming. There were days you wanted to quit, days you felt empty, days you whispered, "I don't have it in me." And heaven whispered back, "You don't have to." Because strength is not self-generated. It is God-infused. Weakness strips you. It removes pride. It removes illusion. It removes dependence on applause. And when everything artificial falls away, only what is real remains. And what is real is unshakable. The process hurts because it confronts identity. You thought you were what you achieved. You thought you were what people said. You thought you were what you projected. But weakness dismantled that version of you, so strength could rebuild the real one. Here is the secret. God allows exposure before elevation. He allows stretching before seeding. He allows refinement before recognition. If He strengthened you too early, pride would destroy you. If He elevated you too fast, character would collapse. So, He hid you, not to ignore you, to fortify you. In the hidden place, your prayer life deepened, your discernment sharpened, your boundaries solidified, your voice matured. You stopped needing to prove yourself. You started trusting the process. That is strength. When Paul the Apostle spoke about weakness, he didn't ask for it to disappear. He understood something deeper, that power rests where pride doesn't, that grace flows where ego breaks, that strength is perfected where surrender lives. The hidden process is not glamorous. It is grinding, it is quiet, it is repetitive. But repetition builds resilience. Silence builds stability. Pressure builds capacity. You can handle more now. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. The same situation that once crushed you now sharpens you. The same storm that once terrified you now trains you. You are not the same person you were. Weakness rearranged you. Process matured you. God rebuilt you, and you didn't even realize it was happening. But the greatest shift is still ahead, because strength isn't just internal. It will soon become visible, and what once made you insecure will become the very evidence of God's hand on your life. The divine exchange. There comes a moment when something shifts, not outside first, inside, quietly, powerfully, irreversibly. You wake up one day and realize the thing that used to control you doesn't control you anymore. The fear that once paralyzed you now pushes you forward. The insecurity that once silenced you now fuels your voice. That is the exchange. God never wastes weakness. He trades it. He takes what you surrender and replaces it with what you need. But exchanges only happen in surrender. You cannot hold on to fear and receive faith at the same time. You cannot cling to control and receive peace. You have to let go. Think about Abraham. He was asked to release what he loved most, not because God needed it, but because Abraham needed to trust. The exchange was not about loss. It was about elevation. What he surrendered in obedience returned multiplied in promise. Think about Esther, an orphan, a hidden girl, a woman with every reason to stay silent. Fear told her to survive. Faith told her to stand. And in one defining moment, weakness became courage. Silence became authority. Obscurity became influence. That is divine exchange. You didn't notice when it started. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was gradual. Prayer by prayer. Decision by decision. Boundary by boundary. You chose healing. You chose growth. You chose obedience. And heaven responded. The exchange happens in layers. First, God removes shame. Then he builds identity. First, he removes fear. Then he builds boldness. First, he removes dependency on people. Then he builds intimacy with him. It is systematic, intentional, precise. You used to panic when things didn't go your way. Now you pause. You used to beg for validation. Now you walk in quiet confidence. You used to chase what left. Now you release what doesn't align. That is strength replacing weakness. There was a time when criticism crushed you. Now it clarifies you. There was a time when rejection shattered you. Now it redirects you. There was a time when delay discouraged you. Now it disciplines you. That is evidence. When Jacob wrestled through the night, he walked away with a limp, but he also walked away with a new name. The limp represented weakness. The name represented identity. Sometimes strength doesn't remove the scar. It redefines it. Your scars are no longer symbols of pain. They are proof of survival, proof of endurance, proof of grace. What embarrassed you before will soon empower someone else, because your weakness is becoming testimony. This is the moment heaven waited for. Not the moment you looked strong, the moment you became dependent. Because true strength is not loud. It is anchored. It is stable. It is surrendered. And now, you don't pray from desperation. You pray from authority. You don't speak from insecurity. You speak from identity. You don't move from fear. You move from calling. That is the exchange completed. But here is what makes it powerful. Strength given by God cannot be taken by people. It cannot be shaken by storms. It cannot be undone by opinions. Because it was built in private, forged in pressure, sealed in surrender. What once felt like your greatest flaw is becoming your greatest weapon. Your sensitivity became discernment. Your tears became intercession. Your isolation became intimacy. Your weakness became strength. And now, the world is about to see what heaven has been building.